So, TDX is one of those games with instantly iconic bosses. No matter what stage of the game you're at, from easy to endless, every boss is absolutely ripe with personality and style. This is because John Roblox and his team of developers are determined to make every boss unique and badass. In this video, we're going to be covering 3 core pillars of TDX's boss design, and then go through one of my favorite bosses, Eradicator, to demonstrate. So take a seat, dear viewer. It's time to get blown up by a rocket launcher, get lit on fire, and discuss why TDX's bosses are so awesome. Attacks and design. The striking difference from TDX from other tower defense games is that your towers are no longer immortal beings that can only be stunned. Your towers are just as vulnerable as the average Reddit user's ego when someone criticizes Elon Musk. This fundamental change to the gameplay loop allows TDX's bosses to hold so much personality with their attacks. In most TD games, all bosses do is have one attack, stun. Sure, these stuns come in different shapes and sizes, but at the end of the day, that's all they are, a stun attack. TDX's bosses have entire arrays of attacks that are all unique. Every boss is about 5 ways to skin your towers, whether through stun, debuffs, AoEs, or targeting specific towers. These different abilities round the bosses out quite well. Spamming a bunch of scarecrows around a boss to bait its attacks out, you best believe it'll stomp the ground and demolish all of the low HP vermin in front of it. Have one really expensive tower? Some bosses will go out of their way to target that tower, leaving the boss vulnerable to attacks. Stuns will allow the boss to get further on the path without taking damage. Finally, debuffs cripple your troops to once again save the boss some HP. These styles of abilities can typically be sorted into an offensive-defensive category, with offensive abilities typically able to kill your towers, while defensive abilities will generally try to stop or slow them down, all of your towers, instead of killing them. Once you start to get a boss's general attacks down in TDX, almost all of them have a second stage. The best example of this, in my opinion, is Eradicator Mark 1C's second phase. John and the gang were clever to have it seem like you're about to kill him when suddenly he screams, a large part of his face rips off, and he reactivates, gaining a ton of HP and shields back. I remember me and my buddy playing Endless when it just came out, and man, that was such a holy shit moment. In another case, when Eradicator Mark IV gets low, he starts sprinting to your base. It's these moments that give these bosses so much flair. I always think Mark IV's running is him literally just all he's doing is making a last-ditch effort to get to your base to take you out since he couldn't just kill his way through. I'd really love to make a mini-series analyzing every TDX boss in detail because they have so much flavor, so let me know if you guys want that. To cap off TDX's boss design, I'd like to draw attention to something John Roblox, the creator of TDX, said when they had to delay Night 3. TDX's bosses are all about being unique with having their own personalities. And I'm not cramming Corrupted Apex Predator and Corrupted Eradicator Mark II just to walk and shoot the same attack, and maybe stunts it once in a while. This is insultingly lame to what I think about TDX boss gameplay. No bosses in TDX are just reskinned garbage, minus a few troll ones like Golden Eradicators. This notion of TDX bosses being intended to be bombastic, cool, and unique at all costs is a developer trait of the TDX team that other developers in the genre could surely learn from. Soundtrack and sound design. Where do I even begin with sound design? This game has ear candy to rival that of the seismic charge effect from Star Wars. I mean, wow. This game nails the sound design down to a T. I could gush around the game's overall sound design for ages, but for now, let's stick to the boss. Every boss feels so incredibly real. The Eradicator boss features an incredible amount of techie sounds, mixed with that mechanical churning of its many mechanical pieces. And when you hit that second phase, you know you pissed it off. Alternatively, stepping away from the Eradicators, the death sound of the Plague Doctor sounds grotesque and zombified, very in character for something so twisted. The soundtrack for this game is even better. If y'all have seen my interview with the GJ, you know how hard this game's soundtrack hits. GJ, Devbags, and Aaron have created one of the best game soundtracks I've ever heard. This puts them up with the greats of Marty O'Donnell's and Michael Salvatore's work on Halo and Mick Gordon's work on Doom. And this is just a Roblox game. The soundtrack, while primary metal, has range from funk, EDM, and funk, and of course, the aforementioned metal. I say that in 100% honesty, this game has got some damn great music. Check out my interview with GJ for more insights on the soundtrack, because man, does that man know how to make music. Artistic style. I'm going to try to keep this section short because it's largely subjective. That being said, badass robots, ladies and gentlemen. Who doesn't love badass robots? Few Roblox games look the way TDX does. This game has a clear, gritty, militaristic style similar to that of Halo Reach. TDX also features some of the best texturing I've seen on the platform. Much like the sound design, I could gush about it on the entire game for hours, but let's once again keep it talking about the bosses. The art style shines the most in bosses. The bosses are all covered in marks, armor, and weapons. Calamity has hellish, blood red, glowing eyes etched upon its face. Eradicator has industrial and militaristic markings, symbolizing the assembly lines it came from. Apex Predator is covered in tubes, pipes, and hydraulics. Bosses have so many details on them that about 90% of the players wouldn't even notice. Lights, marks, and pieces of armor that are sometimes so small that you don't even notice them the first few times around. But man, do these details look awesome. The Eradicators feel very inspired by titles like Pacific Rim and Transformers. Some people will contest this, saying that TDX's bosses feel very samey due to the fact that there's about 4 to 6 Eradicator variants. That being said, I and many others believe that they all have unique enough styles to be in of themselves unique. Bosses like Plague Doctor, Calamity, Engineer, and everyone's favorite, here we go, Super Revive Toilet John MK19X also add further diversity to the boss roster. And of course, they exist to diversify the selection of bosses, and to reiterate one last time, who doesn't like big badass robots? This amplifies TDX's feelings of this being a war against Dr. Xenon's contraptions, and it is truly amazing. Conclusion. TDX has some of the best bosses in tower defense history. Whether you appreciate them for their intricate, unique design, or simply because they look cool, there's no denying these bad boys are terrifying and terrific to play against. Thank you guys all for the support on the GJ interview, by the way. You guys rock. I'm going to try my hardest to make TDX content on a semi-frequent basis. At the end of the day, I am a college student, and so I can't do it super often, but you guys are seriously super nice and super supportive. So please comment any video suggestions, and I'll see what I can get going for y'all. Take care.